any?
No, sir, not for this meeting, we do.
Okay, all right. I will call this meeting to order then at this time, and I'll ask for a roll call.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I wasn't quite up to speed. Councilmember Christie.
Here.
Councilmember Ewing. Present. Councilmember Feldhouse.
Here.
Councilmember Hale.
Here.
Councilmember Isaacs. Here. Councilmember Turnbow.
Here.
Do have a quorum, Mr. Mayor. All members are present.
Thank you. All right, at this point, we want to adopt the agenda or have a motion to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right. Second. All right, Bob, thank you. All right, we just have a roll call. Do we need a roll call on that? Just all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, consideration of a motion to allow the city attorney to read the captions only on ordinances. Do I have a motion to allow that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, Ginger, we're gonna call on you. Ordinances first reading.
Item A is an ordinance of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, and ending on June 30th, 2025.
All right, do I have a motion on that ordinance?
I'll make a motion. And now I'm not sure where this may go. It may not be the appropriate, but I make a motion that we get started with the first reading of the budget, but recommend that the city manager return with the budget in hand to our directors.
Okay. Ms. Ewing has made
And
a motion. Do we have a second?
any more? I mean, said it for the purpose of, or
For the purpose of getting clearly, specifically with our directors as to what capital projects and items that they are looking. I think the budget is a little inflated more than what it should be. Actually, we're going well inside our reserve, Madam Treasurer. So it could be tightened, I think.
Okay, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, that what we're doing tonight is just kind of getting this approved to get it started. We're gonna have about 2 or 3 meetings for
Yes,
the budget.
yes.
Yes, sir, Mayor. This is required by the comptroller's office to have first reading, which starts the 15-day clock. So we can move through the process. This kicks off the process. And I mean, we can certainly.
aren't we meeting with the department heads on Friday at noon anyway to
Yeah.
go over the budget?
Yeah.
That's what you talk about.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any more discussion on? I'm sorry, go ahead.
We did not have to say.
Okay.
No, sir, we didn't.
I thought Marilyn had the motion with the purpose of, she did, didn't she? And then, William, did you second it?
No.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
I just asked for clarification.
Okay. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, Bobby, thank you. Councilman Turnbow has made a second on that. We have any other discussion on that before we vote on it?
So on Friday, and meeting with the departments, that is going to substitute my asking of the city manager to meet with the departments on a one-on-one basis. Is that would be sufficient?
Lisa, what was the motion?
Return for the city manager. I'm sorry, for the city manager to return to department directors and meet on the budget. That was what I got out of
Do
it.
you want individual meetings, Marilyn? Is that what your motion wanted?
If the departments are meeting with us on Friday, possibly is that sufficient? I mean, this is just Maryland, not the type of council, but I do.
I think, hey, do you want to say something?
I may have missed something, but was part of your motion to approve the first reading and do something else?
Yes.
Because I don't think you
Yes.
repeated that, okay.
Yeah. It was to approve the first reading
Okay, I missed that part.
with the caveat
Right.
that the city manager return to the department directors with further discussion on the budget. Did I get that right?
That is correct.
Very good.
Reduce the budget, is that correct? That's-
It hopes to reduce. Yes.
Okay.
Turn on that,
To
you still second
reduce.
that? Okay, we got a motion and a second. Do we have, any other discussion before we do the roll call vote?
I guess I need, just for clarification purposes, do you want that meeting to take place before we present it to you on Friday? Because that's, the workshop Fridays for conversation about the budget.
Right. I don't think there's gonna be sufficient time for the city manager to meet individually prior to us meeting on Friday. But if we could sufficiently, if we could collectively, if we could get what needs to be done starting on Friday with these directors,
Okay.
I'm satisfied with that.
Okay.
Is that, everybody got that?
Yes.
Very clear? Before we take a roll call vote, any other discussion? Thank you, Claire. Clarifying that.
Yeah, because when we meet Friday with our department heads there, and this in front of us, we can start yaying and naying. That's what you're, yeah, that's what I meant. Okay,
That satisfies me.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Anybody else have any discussion? If not, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Feldhouse,
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing,
Yes.
Councilmember Hale,
Yes.
Councilmember Christie,
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs,
Yes.
Councilmember Turnbow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. All right, Big Ginger.
Your second item is an ordinance to make final amendments to the adopted budget ordinance as amended for the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, various funds for the fiscal year 2023, 2024, the period ending June 30th, 2024.
Have a motion on that. That's just clarifying and clearing up everything to the end of the year. Is that correct?
But that's correct.
Okay. Have a motion on that one?
Motion?
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion on that one before we vote on it? All right, let's take a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, did the second come from Mr. Christie? Okay, thank you. Councilmember Turnbow,
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs,
Yes.
Councilmember Christie,
Yes.
Councilmember Hale,
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing,
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Resolutions, you read that again?
I do, but Lisa, can you pass me the resolution? I have to read the entire, on this one, it does require me to read out the entire.
You want that or you want that?
Let me have the.
Look,
I normally have Lisa's file. I'm sorry. I didn't get her file. Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. And this one I do need to read out tonight because of the state law on the budget. A resolution to authorize appropriations for nonprofit organizations. Whereas the mayor and city council of the city of Shelbyville desire to appropriate funds for the financial aid of nonprofit charitable organizations and nonprofit civic organizations that meet the established standards set by Tennessee Code Annotated 6-54-111 by the Comptroller of the Treasury and by the city of Shelbyville. And whereas the funds appropriated herein promote the general welfare of the residents of the city of Shelbyville, and whereas notice of the intent to make the appropriations contained herein has been published in a newspaper of general circulation in the city of Shelbyville. Now therefore be it resolved by the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, that the following appropriations for the benefit of nonprofit organizations have been approved by the city of Shelbyville in the names and amounts as follows. This is for the general fund in the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, and this will be the expenditures and the allocation. For the Vocational Rehabilitation Center, $25,000. For the Shelbyville Bedford County Public Library, $149,829. For the Senior Citizen Center, $16,000. For the Chamber of Commerce, $5,000. For a total allocation of $195,800 $829.
Okay,
What's in there?
do we have a motion for the nonprofit?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, any discussion on that? I see
I
some
do.
questions on some faces,
I have a
okay?
question, we're still, if we're not
Right.
permitted to be a member of the chamber, I do not personally know if we need to give them $5,000.
Well, they didn't accept your $5,000.
Yeah, they come.
They may not accept
They may
it.
not accept the next time either.
They didn't accept it, so.
We haven't got an answer back on that letter, and so that's probably put on there because of maybe kind of waiting on that, answer on that. Of course, it could be taken right back out again.
Yes,
Are all of these voted, under one umbrella, or are they individually voted on? Or discussion?
they've always been done by one umbrella, but of course, this is the time for you to talk about them.
And some of them are required, aren't they, Kay? Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that, in the back of your budget notebooks, the proposed ones are 3 letters. And 2 of the organizations have requested increases. We didn't just put it on there, we're gonna wait till y'all discuss it. But both the library and the senior citizens had requested some increase there. So we just put the numbers that were the current year, but of course, y'all can go up, down, or wherever you wanna go with it.
I don't think you can go down on those 3. Can you?
True, don't go down.
Don't go down.
Yes.
But are you asking for what, if any, additional funds go to them tonight, or?
We're not asking for that tonight. We're just asking for what normally is appropriated for those particular, I think it's kind of required, aren't we? Are we required
We
on
have
some
to
of
do a
these?
nonprofit resolution.
That's right.
I think we could change these amounts.
Yeah.
Yes,
We
We
can do
could
that.
change these
the
amounts.
the three, with the exception of the chamber,
Mhm.
the other 3, I believe, have maintenance and effort clauses, which means that you have to give, once you give them a certain amount, you have to continue to give that amount. Always can give more, which a couple have asked for that. But what we set this up for was what we standardly have been doing, and that's why the chamber's on there, because we let that up to y'all to decide how to handle it. But all this is tonight is the same as the budget ordinance. I'm required to advertise a public hearing. I have to have the first reading first.
Right.
So we have to just kind of let the clock start running.
Yes.
And then it'll be in your discussions for your budget, and numbers can be changed. Then it'll be presented for a second reading as amended.
But not this.
What's that?
The resolution passes it tonight.
No, the nonprofit resolution is one of those resolutions that has to have 2 readings at a
Okay.
public hearing.
That's an ordinance.
Yeah. It's one of those resolutions that is passed like an ordinance. I don't know why, that's just the way they've always done it. And that may not be, but that's the way we've always done it.
Am I correct that someone mandates that we have to give those? You can't take them, or we can't?
On your Shelbyville Bedford County Public Library, it's called maintenance of effort. It's very similar to what the county has to deal with when it comes to the education. So yes, it's a maintenance of effort. You can't get away with it. There's a lot of rigmarole to go through if there was ever a closing of the library, let's put it that way. And the Senior Citizen Center, I believe,
I had been told it was maintenance of effort, but I don't know that for sure.
And we're doing things, I think we're about to replace the central unit or something out there.
Mhm.
We kind of oversee the senior citizen center. Thank goodness we have them here. Any other questions? You folks had voted, or the council had voted, I don't know how many years ago, that this was the list of nonprofits, and the rest of them had been phasing out over the years,
Yes,
and
yes,
that
sir.
phase was. So that's the reason we only have those
yeah, this is
listed.
much less,
Yeah.
lower amount.
Right. Any other discussion, questions? Okay, do I have a motion on that resolution?
I have a
To
motion.
authorize it, I'm
I
sorry.
have a motion and a second on the floor.
Okay.
Ready for roll call whenever y'all are.
Okay, any other discussion? Thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
All right, roll call, please, Lisa.
Councilmember Christie,
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs. Yes. Councilmember Turnbow,
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse,
Yes.
Ewing,
Yes.
Councilmember Hale.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, folks. All right, in the way of announcements, I have, I knew this was coming up, and you guys anybody want me to go ahead and read this? Juneteenth, is gonna be held, the celebration, for that is June the 15th, and it's a day about freedom from 9:15 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the courthouse square, 8:30 a.m. Juneteenth Memorial Walker, starting at the Birch Street Church of Christ. And then 9 a.m. parade lineup, 10 a.m. the parade, 11 opening ceremonies. And I think we have arts and crafts, children and youth activities, entertainment stage, and award ceremony. It says bring your own lawn chairs. Anything need to be added to that announcement? Looking forward to that.
Actually, the board asked that, everyone try to attend that. Any and all are welcome to ride in the parade. In the entry form for the vehicles, you don't necessarily have to fill those out. The city automatically they make the room for the city.
Okay.
I think our very own Councilmember Hale is going to be introducing the city in the main, whenever we get that together, so. I'm not sure what he's planning to do, but.
Whatever they tell you, right?
No, that's not what happened last year. He put Scott on the hot seat and off the cuff. But anyway, but everybody's welcome.
Looking forward to it. It's part of that last year. Any other announcements we need to make on that? If we're not, do we have any other announcements we need to make before we have our next meeting? Anybody have an announcement we need to make? Okay, we had the Memorial Day ceremony last Monday, and a very touching ceremony, and a great speaker for that, so we're thankful for that. That was on the west side of or on the south side of the courthouse lawn, and I had the opportunity to attend to that. Any other announcements? All right, if there's no other announcements, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Do I have a second? All right, this meeting is adjourned.
Breakfast are done. A shot of
I'm sorry, what's
I'm sorry.
Good evening, everyone. If you've just joined us, we just finished one meeting and we're going to have the mayor and city council study session. And we have an updated agenda. I want you to notice that. And it is 6 p.m. and it's June the 4th, 2024. And on our agenda, the first item is public comments. Lisa, do you have anyone?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Joanne Bassel.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Bassel. You have 3 minutes and the time will start when you start speaking.
All right, hi. Well, thank you, everybody. My name is Joanne Bassel. I'm a resident of Shelbyville and an organizer with the Bedford County Listening Project. I'm here to speak about the proposed change to ordinance 10-213. This is the loitering ordinance where the proposed change is to add on a camping ban and a no storing of personal property on public land. We all need a safe place to sleep. Homelessness is increasing as people are priced out of the housing market with skyrocketing rents and low wages. Here in Shelbyville, 1 in 4 tenants are rent burdened when it comes to their house. That means that they are paying between 30 to 50% of their income on rent. And we know from the survey that we did that there are some residents in Shelbyville that routinely pay more than 50% of their income on their rental. So that means that 1 in 4 renters in Shelbyville are 1 lost job, 1 broken down car, 1 illness away from homelessness. We also have no alternative shelter for people in Shelbyville. That means when an individual or family does find themselves homeless, there isn't anywhere that they can turn for alternative housing or support services. One thing that struck me when I was thinking about this issue is the fact that we have 2 animal shelters in Shelbyville. We also have very clear guidelines about how animals that live outside are to be housed and treated. They have to be provided with adequate shelter. They have to have proper warmth in the winter. They have to be provided with clean food and water. And if an animal is mistreated, there are laws to hold the person who mistreats that animal accountable. Yet we offer no support services for our fellow human beings who have no access to permanent housing. If an animal is on the street, we take that animal in, we heal them if they're ill, we house and feed them, and then find safe permanent housing for them. But with our fellow human beings, we are proposing to harass them, remove them from their shelter, possibly strip them of their belongings, and levy fines and possible jail time on them. I don't think this is something that we, as the residents of Shelbyville, can really support or get behind. Our homeless neighbors are human beings, just like the rest of us, and they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. The city should be looking at real solutions to homelessness rather than ticketing or arresting someone for simply existing. When you ticket or arrest someone for sleeping outdoors, you're actually increasing the barriers for that person, and you're making it harder for that person to move out of being unhoused and into permanent housing. Eric Tars of the National Homelessness Law Center sent you all a letter. It should have been sent to you guys yesterday via email. I hope you've had an opportunity to review that, but I just very quickly want to read a portion of it. And that says, our choices define our community, and this council has an important one to make. No matter your race or background, people do not choose to be homeless. Arresting unhoused people isn't the answer. Let's make sure everyone has a place to call home so no one needs to live on public lands in the first place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Jane, Prince. Again, I'm
Close enough.
I'll never get you. I'm so sorry.
Close enough.
Miss Jane,
Yeah,
you
thank
have
very
3
much.
minutes also.
Okay, all right. I'm commenting on the loitering thing too. And one of the problems I had with it was property owner, because I thought I was the owner of this building. He's the partial owner of this building because it's public. And I elected government officials to take care of it for me, to manage it. So can I give myself written permission to set up a tent here to camp? Because I'm a partial owner of this property? Obviously not. And don't worry, I won't do that. That was something I had a problem with. And also, when we have the 4th of July fireworks, we have a big company come in, set up fireworks on the rec center. Do they camp? will they need written permission to camp? We have the Bedford County Fair, which has a big carnival come in usually every year. I haven't been to it in several years. Do those people need written permission to camp? I mean, we're having I think the city council is having a difficult enough time trying to determine if we're giving out money to people, to tourism. And now you want to start saying, okay, this Boy Scout troop can camp. These people, these carnies can camp at the Bedford Fair. I was just wondering if we wanted to get into that. And if we look at, if we get rid of the camping and just say it's unlawful for any person to store personal property, does your staff have a refrigerator that they put their food in and store their food for lunch? Is that not storing personal property? I was just wondering about the technicalities, how detailed we're going to get on this. Of course, I don't think the police officers are going to do that. I don't think you're going to walk into some office and arrest everybody who's put their personal property in their desk in a public office. I don't think you're going to do that. But again, we need to keep it under control if we're going to have that. And another thing that also came to my attention was lockers, especially with high school students who are graduating. And if they're anything like the people I went to school with, you need a hazmat unit to come in and clean out that personal property out of those lockers, which again, is public property. You know, and do the students need written permission to store personal items on public property? And I just wanted to get it into probably some of the potential problems that this ordinance might bring up, and that we need to be careful and make sure that it doesn't go overboard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Lisa, we have anyone else?
I have nobody else signed up, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, if we have no other public comments, and we'll ask our city manager, Mr. Collins, Scott Collins, to give us an update.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a few things that I'll bring to the mayor and city council's attention. The airport is the recipient of a $6 million award from the federal government for improvements to the airport. I want to go ahead and mention this because there's a lot of details to be worked out. If you all will recall, in March of 2023, the city council approved a resolution to request $8.9 million from Congressman Desjardins. And MTSU was the driving force behind that. And even according to the resolution, would present any local match as required. However, in talking to state aeronautic officials, the city is the recipient of the grant. So in order to get everything cleared up and a strong understanding, we're having a meeting with MTSU on Monday, June 10th to discuss their land acquisition in addition to this grant information. And I'm sorry I don't have more details to share with you at this time. However, we've not received formal notification of it, although state officials are working on it. So the minute we get the information, we'll of course share it with mayor and council. The second item, last month during the May meeting cycle, I said we'd have an update on the Riverview District, but there's still some details that we need to work out before we can present a good working plan for the council's consideration. So that has been postponed until a future meeting. The retail strategies on the small business support grant, that will be kicking off after July 4th. We had a meeting with them on the 31st. Very, very informative meeting, very enthusiastic. This is going to be an incredible asset that the mayor and city council has provided for our small business community. And we'll have much more information coming out on that in the very next few days. And lastly, I just wanted to announce for public notification, TDOT is going to have an archaeological team on the Frank Martin Road working on the state industrial access survey for the 231 North Business Park. And they will be up and down the road, potholing and other issues, June 3rd through June 2nd. And just want to make the public aware of that. Mayor, that's all I have at this time.
Scott, I think we're going to use you more in just a minute. Okay. Any question for Scott on that? All right, discussion items, special census. Scott, that's pages 1 through 13 in your packet. Hope you had a chance to look over that. Scott, if you want to brief us on that, please.
Yes, sir. Staff is requesting permission to initiate the process to conduct a special census. And it is, as you'll see in your package, it is a process that takes several months. And we did not want to proceed any further until we had the council, or the blessing of the council. And that's more or less, I feel, and several staff members feel, that we're missing out on hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars due to the 2020 census, which had us at 23,557. I believe Shelbyville was quite a lot larger than that. So we're putting together a strategy on how to approach this. But again, we wanted the council's approval before we proceed any further.
Any questions or thoughts on that? We'll make sure we count everybody if we can, living in Shelbyville. Even new babies born today.
We're not the only one, we're not the only city doing that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's
Very
right.
much so, it's across the
That's right.
state.
Yeah, a lot of cities doing that same thing. Right.
Actually, you can do up to 4 special censuses between the 10-year census. That's how much Middle Tennessee is getting hit with population growth.
And that does affect grant opportunities and other things that can help us in the future. I'm talking about all of the citizens of Shelbyville. Okay, Scott, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments on that? All right, the next thing is the planning services proposal, and that's pages 14 through 16. Scott, if you would talk to us about that, please.
Yes, sir. As everyone knows, we have a transition going on with our planning department at this time. And in times past, the city of Shelbyville has contracted with Griggs and Maloney and had a professional planner come in to assist our existing staff. And the proposal is on your iPads, and we're going to be requesting that the city council approves it at the next, or at the business meeting.
Okay, are they completely finished there, Scott?
Sorry.
Are they completely finished there?
This is for the planning.
Mm.
Yes, sir. It'll be Kevin Chastain, who is a certified planner, great experience, great knowledge of Shelbyville, because I think this is his third, will be his third involvement with us. And now we have additional staff, which it should be a lot better process. And we're working on a proposal to present to city council on the future of the planning department.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for Scott on that? Okay. Bass, Berry and Sims, LLC fees, and that is our attorneys for a for the sales tax. Scott, would you tell us about that? It's not in your packet, by the way.
They have not provided the updated projection of expenditures at this time, and we should have it definitely by the business meeting. We did have communication last week and over the weekend. We'll have additional, fine numbers for you next week.
Did I see an email recently where we will be working with them? as far as the meeting?
I never did receive any feedback whatsoever, so I've not scheduled a meeting.
Okay.
But I would highly recommend it.
Prior to discussion of their fees. We just haven't heard enough. We haven't been in touch. I'm not sure what's going on.
Well, ma'am, we sent the email that gave the process moving forward, what it will be. And then in my report, I asked if council would be
Right.
receptive to sitting down with them. And this is the first comment I've heard. So I'd be happy to schedule a meeting if council's agree.
Okay. Video meeting or
Yes,
in person, video. That's what I read in the thing that you sent out.
So we're all caught up, Madam Treasurer, on what is owed to them to this point?
Scott, did we pay him through, April or,
Yes, we paid them through April 30th.
and that finished up the authorized money, right?
Yes.
It was 125? No, 125?
It was 75.50, so it's 125, yes.
And
And it might have been $70 over or something.
$74.
Yeah.
Change.
So are we setting a meeting?
Yes, I will.
I'm just
Ah,
wondering.
That's the council. Do you want to have a video meeting with the attorneys to kind of ask him where we are and how much it's going to be to the end and all those kind of different things? You may have a lot of different questions. I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
We'll probably need a budget amendment amount to pay for May and June if they're gonna do any more work.
Right. Okay. How's everybody feel about that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right, Scott, thank you for bringing us up to date on that. Looks like we'll have that video meeting based on those nods that I got there and the voice approval. Okay, is that all you have on that subject? Okay, stormwater management manual update. And we have one of our employees, Mr. Dickey, Ron Dickey, who's in charge of that. Ron, you gonna bring us up to speed?
You have 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
No. Man, this isn't intimidating at all being up here. Goodness. Okay, all
Come
right.
on, Brian, you got it.
Well, just so everybody knows, so of course, I'm the stormwater coordinator. Now, TDEC, every 5 years or so, they come out with a new permit, new language for the permit, new requirements for the cities for their MS4. And so we have to update our management manual. And what I'd like to do is real quickly, I'll go through like the history of the stormwater program and where we are in Shelbyville. And that way it gives everybody kind of a background of what we're looking at, okay? Then we'll go over some of the changes. So right now, so this is the definition that TDEC gives us for stormwater. Stormwater is defined by the Clean Water Act regulations, includes stormwater runoff, snow melt runoff, surface runoff, and drainage. During rain and snow falls, water runoff from urban streets, parking lots, and construction sites can carry oil, grease, sediment, and other pollutants, either directly or indirectly through storm drains into the surface waters. Stormwater is one of the leading causes of pollution of our nation's waters today. So the key words in there, I don't know if you guys caught this, but we need to remember when we're talking about everything, it's runoff. This isn't, we can't control the rain coming out of the sky. You know, God doesn't need a permit. You know, he dumps it on us sometimes. So, but this is runoff because it causes this pollution. So, so why do we even need a program? Where did it ever come about? We can thank my state of Ohio. The Cuyahoga River in 1969 was so polluted it caught on fire like multiple times. So if you can imagine the pollution that would take to catch water on fire, that's what happened. And since I'm from Ohio, I still blame Michigan. So,
And love.
they were jealous of our football program. So then what happened is the EPA came in and the Clean Water Act of 1972, which generally prohibited the discharge of any pollutant to navigable waters from a point source unless the discharge was authorized by National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit. So they were pumping directly into rivers and everything, all these industrial things. So you can't do that anymore since 1972. It got broken up into like two different phases for, for the cities. So phase one was the big cities. They established their program in 1992 with a population of 100,000 or greater. So, and then where we are, we're the phase two, and we started the programs in 2003, and I think Shelby was in 2006 is when everything was kicking off. And it was defined to include the urbanized areas with populations less than 100,000 but greater than 10,000. So, a part of the program is we have 6 minimum measures for a phase two for the city of Shelbyville for the community. So we have public education, outreach, public participation, illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction site runoff, post-construction runoff, pollution prevention, and good housekeeping. So I have a lot of data and I have to report that to TDEC. My annual report is due September 30th of every year. So we report all this stuff back to TDEC, make sure we're in compliance with the permit. Some of these minimum measures are the public education outreach. Of course, we do handouts, brochures. We do. I've been trying to do a little bit more in the social media. We do presentations. I've actually just this year with the park, we got some new reading material for their reading trail, so the kids can learn about water conservation and taking care of our water system. So the handouts and brochures. Sometimes my inspector will be driving around. He sees people blowing grass out into the road and stuff. Well, that's no good. We can't have that. It creates a mess. So we'll give them a handout and educate them a little bit. Public participation. At one time they did stream cleanups. A couple of groups organized that. We have volunteer opportunities. We have public hearings. We just had a public meeting last week to go over some of this stuff. List of discharge detection and elimination. So we have and Cade, our IT director, has been working really hard with getting our GIS kind of up to date. And that's the mapping that we have to have. Do dry weather screening. Just this last year, with the help of Griggs and Maloney, we went and mapped more outfalls along the Duck River just to see. We look at it, make sure there's nothing, you don't smell nothing, you don't see nothing going into the river. So it's really, we got to really watch that. Let's see here. The construction sites, we go through a review process. Obviously, the planning commission, we have a pre-planning staff. Everybody goes through all of our plans. We have a checklist, double check to make sure everything's going to be in, everything required, the plans are going to be meeting that. Some of the stuff we'll see, construction site runoff. We have the pre-construction meetings before anybody gets a grading permit. We do a pre-con meeting. It's us and Shelbyville Power, Water, and Sewer, just the whole staff. We get together and we talk to the developer and the contractor who's going to be doing the work. I have on-site educational opportunities. Pretty much what that means is when we see stuff on a construction site, we pull them off their equipment and show them, hey, you need to clean this up, or we need to work on something. We are required to do monthly inspections for these job sites. We have a city inspector, and he does a really good job and goes out there and inspects. The contractors are required to have their own inspector for twice weekly inspections, just so you all know. This is some of the stuff we have seen. You got some silt fence that, that's still doing its job, but obviously we've got tracking on the road. We don't like to see any of that. That can get washed into the drains. Big thing now is people not keeping up with their construction site or their construction entrances. Those are designed to make sure you're not going to track out on the road. And I mean, if you do, it's very minimal. But actually our contractors, they do a pretty good job with, we call them up and they'll get to it and clean it up. Got a pretty good relationship with them. The permanent stormwater management program, again, is one of those 6 minimum measures. There's detention ponds, retention ponds, bio-retention ponds. There's all sorts of stuff. And there's also, they're called like aqua swirls. They're devices, they're manufactured devices that would treat the water. So in other words, like part of the requirements is the 1 inch, you have to treat the first inch. And I'm going to let Will talk about more of the technical stuff because I'll probably confuse everybody. But anyway, we have to treat the 1 inch, the first inch of the storm water. So if it's a 3 inch rain, you're going to treat that first inch. because we have to have 80% TSS removal, which is total suspended solid. Something, yeah, it's like that. So anyway, what that is it's removing the sediment and the pollutants from the runoff as much as we can. And then, of course, there's long-term maintenance plans and agreements. All those are for the property owner to understand that they have permanent stormwater measures on their site, and they're going to maintain it. And the long-term maintenance plan is how you're going to maintain it, and that gets recorded with the deeds or at the deeds office with the property. The permit requires that all permanent stormwater controls are inspected on a yearly schedule. Any violation will be reported to the owner. Permit also requires all permanent stormwater controls to have a long-term maintenance plan agreement, like I just said, at the deeds office. And the permit requires as-built drawings for all permanent stormwater controls. So when the guys, they do their, everything's all done and the retention pond's in, before we can sign off on everything, they got to give us as-built drawings. And we check them against the drawings that were approved to make sure everything's going to be right on or, within tolerance. Some of the other things that we do to make sure we protect our waterways is TDEC, there's a 60-foot or a 30-foot buffer zone. And that's around these streams, okay? And you have to have it's called a riparian buffer. So it's a vegetative buffer around these streams. Now, these definitions I'm going to read these. These are TDEC's definition, but then I'm going to try to interpret it to English so you guys can really understand this. The 60-foot buffers are for exceptional waters. In general, these water bodies are exceptional biological diversity, protected species, important ecological values, valuable recreational uses, and/or outstanding scenery. It's a special stream. You think of it like the duck. We get our water from the duck. That's very special. We've got to protect it. It gets the 60-foot buffer. Waters with unavailable parameters. Any stream segment that has been identified by the division, which is TDEC, as failing to support classified uses, and it's previously referred to as impaired waters. It was blue line streams at one time, and there was impaired waters. Now it's waters with unavailable parameters, because TDEC likes to change things around on us. The 30-foot buffers are waters with available parameters, streams with water quality that is better than the levels specified in the water quality criteria. It means it's a stream. It's a healthy stream. There's nothing special about it. It's healthy. Unassessed is not identified as impaired. So they didn't identify it as impaired, so they're saying, well, it's just a stream, put the 30-foot buffer on it. So just so you know, that's what we're doing, to protect our streams. Pollution prevention, good housekeeping. We have annual site inspections of our facilities. This last year, I went to all went to the airport, rec center, all the firehouses, just to make sure that we're not doing anything to impact, the Duck River or something going into our storm drains. We do required training for city employees. Some employees, like our guys in Public Works, will do special training. We show the videos and everything about how to look at illicit discharge. If you see oil or any kind of rainbowing in the water, we need to figure out how to report that and clean that up. Future plans, Cade's been working on this, have an online training portal for all the employees. We also, part of this is during orientation for every employee, they're given a little handout of the stormwater program. And so, they sign off when they get go through their orientation for employment. All right, I haven't said all that, and that's the background. So the changes that we're going to be doing to the manual, in general, these are, some of these changes are just clarification, some definitions or what's going on. We did a really deep dive into the manual. There's me, Will Owen, Griggs and Maloney employees. We all went through this page by page through our manual just to make sure we compared it to the new permit from TDEC. So what I'll do is I'll a couple of general ones, but anything technical, I'm gonna have Will come and answer that if that's okay. I'm not the engineer, and we got the best one here. So changes is in section 2.5, the erosion sediment control. We removed the use of straw bales as an option throughout the document. So people back in the day, they used to be able to use straw bales, throw them in a ditch, and say, oh, there's my sediment control. Well, that breaks down and it starts going into culverts and blocking up storm drains, and we can't have that. It causes flooding. So we don't want that. Floodplain requirements. The old manual actually had a whole big section, and it was a lot of old documentation. Our floodplain in the zoning ordinance had been updated, so what we did was we simplified it. We put one little paragraph, essentially says, check out the zoning ordinance, it's got our floodplain stuff in there. So that's what we did there. 6.4, stormwater quantity conveyance. It used to be called stormwater quantity detention. Well, it wasn't detaining, it was describing a conveyance, so we wanted to change that language. So this one we changed, section 6.7.1, we changed the release rate from any detention facility should approximate that of the site prior to the proposed development for the 2-year through 25-year storm. Previously, it was 2-year through 10. So these are design storms. So in other words, we want to study that to make sure we're going to detain as much as we can to help out with some of these drainage issues, and that goes through their drainage calculations when they submit plans and stuff. So section 6.8.5, post-development requirements. These sections, it was all revised to meet the requirements of the new stormwater regulations. So that would be the water quality. Like I was talking about, like the treatment, the 1-inch treatment, and these were all revised. All of our stuff in general, it met the requirements, but it was pretty convoluted. And so what we did was we took the permit and we just cleaned it up. We used language directly from the permit, the TDEX permit, and changed that whole section there. Of course, we talked about the buffers. We cleaned up the buffers in our manual to better match what TDEC is requiring. And that's it. If you can download the draft, and that's it. If anybody's got any questions, I got Will here. So
Good job, Brian. Anybody have questions for Mr. Dickey? Go ahead.
I just want to make certain, Brian, as a part of this, every 5 years, you've got to look at your manual and update it. You do have to allow for public comment. And so Brian held a meeting and we notified the advertising for that last week. There actually was, I don't want to say there was no public comment. The only people that attended actually were members of our planning commission who were all interested to know, of course, how that affected their job. And so they had some input and some talk, maybe some questions. But in terms of public comment actually on the proposed changes,
right,
you really didn't have any.
Nothing.
Just letting you all know that.
No, it was a good turnout. I appreciate the planning commission showing up, and it was a good thing. Everybody, I like teaching everybody kind of the background and everything. So I think it's helpful for everybody. So, all right.
And just so make certain you all understand, the city of Shelbyville has to have that permit. We call that the MS4 permit. That is issued to us through TDAC, but that is to be in compliance with the Clean Water Act, with federal law. So everybody kind of knows it goes from the federal government to the state government down to us. And so for us to do what we do in terms of our stormwater and drainage, we have to have that MS4 permit. As a part of having that MS4 permit, we have to have the manual and our own regulations, and we're required to do this review and update every 4 to 5 years.
Yep. Very good. Anyone else have questions? We've got to keep that water clean. Appreciate the work that you're doing on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything? All right. Good job, Brian. And I think our sharpener had helped him a little bit on that. Will, we appreciate your work on that. Buck, we appreciate you helping there too. All of you folks, Rec Center, working together as a team. All right. No other questions there. The North Britain change order and closeout. We'll ask Will Owen, that's pages 18 through 23, if he would give us a brief on that. Mr. Owen? Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe in your packets, or I believe it was distributed previously, is a cover letter and then the final adjusting change order for the completed North Britain project. As I presented or came before you in your January meeting, we were all fairly disappointed with the progress or lack thereof at that time of the project. The project had been in place, under construction for approximately 5.5 months at that point in time, and about 25% of the project had been completed. Since then, since the 4.5 months since then, the remaining 75% of the project is done, and the project is closed out. So we conveyed that disappointment to the contractor and established some patterns of weekly meetings and oversight to make sure that the progression sped up, and we were able to accomplish that. We also had before you in January a change order that increased the total contract amount to $916,150. I am happy to report to you that the base scope of work that was covered in that scope was completed for a little under that of $912,646.85. So we were able to project our estimated quantities as we were hoping to, and were able to accomplish the project under the original scope of the $912,646. Concurrently with evaluating how the project was progressing in the last couple months, there was some opportunities that presented themselves to address and eliminate some existing undesirable conditions. Primarily, there were 3 of those, and I identified those in my cover letter. I won't go into detail unless you guys desire to, but the first one was improved road drainage on the south end of the project. The second one was widening the street section on the north end of the project. And then the third one was eliminating some safety concerns with old curb cuts or driveway accesses on Lane Parkway. And in identifying those, it was, again, concurrently with identifying those during the project, it was understood that we were approaching the end of your current fiscal year budget, and there were some funds available already budgeted for funds available in some of the public works line items. And so we were able to utilize previously budgeted public works funding to address primarily those 3 issues. From an accounting standpoint, it's cleaner, and I'll speak to this if Kay has anything to add or correct, feel free. But from an accounting standpoint, it's a better practice to incorporate that additional work for those 3 undesirable areas into the total contract amount. So that's why you see the change order for a total amount of $992 and some change. But that additional funding, the $79,000, was already budgeted for and is available in the public works. If you have questions about that, I'll let Kay discuss the movement of those funds. But that is not, those additional funds are not unaccounted for, if you will, from previously approved budget. I think it looks great. I know the business owners are more than thrilled to have it back open. They visited us numerous times during the construction of the project. And honestly, 2 of the 3 undesirable conditions came about as we had discussions with those existing business owners. And so we were able to address some of those items, and that's the drainage and then the additional on-street parking there. With the on-street parking, we were also able to raise the road elevation to lessen the severity of the driveway entrances going into the Coffee Beans facility there. If you'll recall previously, that the slope of the driveway entering that facility is pretty steep. And so we were able to remove or raise the road I want to say, and Buck will correct me, but I think in that area, we were 9 or 10 inches higher than what the previous road elevation was. With that, if you got any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I don't have any questions for Will. I have been down there and looked it over, walked it, and look really good. Some of the employees from Public Works were down there one day, and I got a chance to talk to them. I think we're gonna have maybe a little ceremony on that. It's been a long time, but it really looks good, and we had to take care of some things that were unforeseen, I guess you'd say. Thank you so much, Will. Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Does that 79,000 that they additionally spent, council, that don't come by the council? No, for our, I mean, for hey, we gonna spend 79,000, we gonna do something else, is that something we just, we left out of?
You want to answer?
The existing public works budget,
Right.
that money was allocated to it, and then we wanted to bring it to your attention to do the project right and on time. We had to do that, and that's the purpose tonight, to get the change order approved. Otherwise, we would have been delayed about 30 days, and the section on East Main would have stayed blocked much longer, and also the pit would have been open much longer.
I hope Nearest Green appreciates all this.
The, part of that was ARP funds, right? Okay. Did we use ARP funds, Scott? Okay.
We actually spent the ARP funds about a year and a half ago, but that freed up local funds that we would have had to use them on. As far as where we take this money from, as you all know, city money is city money, wherever it's sitting. It would be simpler to use capital projects fund balance or capital projects fund, so this is in there as a complete project rather than taking it out of streets. Because, you know, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and of course, so, but it's up to y'all, but I need to put it in a budget amendment somewhere. I've either got to amend it from streets over to capital projects, or just go ahead and use money that's already in capital projects as an amendment, so, we can go either way with that. But I'm just the bean counter, I don't get involved in the actual project.
Good question, Councilman Turnbull. Anyone else have any questions along that line?
This may be a question for Buck. If this money was in your budget and we've spent it on this road to be reallocated through the change order, technically, you're out $70-some thousand. Would that money normally roll over from one year to the next?
It just goes to fund balance.
Does it hinder anything that you had projects on the board you were trying to get done?
No, I mean, the Britton Street project with the issues that we ran into with cars falling in it, with equipment falling in it, that was the reason why we did the project. So anything that we could do to make that project better and get through, I thought it was a worthwhile, especially the only business owners that we talked to was the business owners that are open over there. We had communication, but nothing was done extra for anybody else. It was more for the whole system of drainage down through there. So we tried to take care of the existing, you know, it's been almost 3 years that road's been open. So we wanted to make sure the end product was the perfect product when we turned it over to the residents.
And to follow up on that, Henry, he had extra money in several lines in his budget, but one line, where we normally do state road paving, last year we had a 2-year state road maintenance agreement, and we're gonna wait and do all that in next year's, the way I understand it. So he had $90,000 that was gonna be unspent this year in that line item.
Will that hinder us 70-something thousand over that 2-year period?
I checked with TDOT and they said they said you could spend it all in the second year. They couldn't stop us from doing that.
Good question, Councilmember Felton. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Will. We did get some positive feedback. I got some, and I think it went to everybody about how good it looks, and they were pleased to have that road back open again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody involved, Buck, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, number 6 is the multimodal grant request. Scott, would you bring us up to speed on that?
Yes, sir.
These are added items, by the way.
Yes, this item, the city council and mayor approved a notice of intent for multimodal grants at a previous meeting. And last Tuesday, we received notice, that we can make the full application now. And just to jog your memory on what this grant is, it would be phase 2 of the improvement to the Madison Street corridor with curbs, guttering, sidewalks, etc. And the multimodal grant is probably the best grant available out there because it traditionally comes with a 95% state and federal money and only a 5% city match. So what staff is asking is to authorize next week for us to file the full application. The submit or application opens up on May 29th and runs through July 15th. But the quicker we could get it in with council's approval, the better our chances would probably be.
Very good. Any questions for Scott on that? All right, number 7, added item also, local tourism grant request, chili cook-off.
Yes, sir, Mayor. This is a really good event. They're celebrating their 17th year of a 2-day sanctioned chili cook-off, car show, and celebrating the Shelbyville Square. They do have, like I said, it's a 2-day event, and they do book several motel hotel rooms within our community. So council just needs to authorize us, well, to determine if you want to fund it out of the local grants program that's been established, and if so, how much.
I read it over this afternoon. Said they had people coming from 15 states. Our tourism, I guess, qualifications on the number of days, does it fall into that amount that they're asking for there?
Yes, sir, it does. It falls into the category of local grant event with regional and state promotion. And again, they have people from other states, so it could fall into the local grant event with national.
Okay. We'll just let everybody know in the audience, the tourism money comes from hotel motel tax. Anybody that stays in a hotel motels or RVs that come into the community, when we have events and things like that, they pay a tax. And that tax is used for tourism. Is that correct, Scott? Okay. Okay.
Do we know yet if they want that in June or July? Do we know yet? I mean, I don't know that we have to know right now.
The date of the celebration or the event is July 12th through the 13th. But I would think in order to get promotion on out there,
They might want it in
probably
June.
want it,
Okay.
if, as council approves it, they
Gotcha.
probably want it rather quick.
That makes sense.
We formally approve that next week. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Have we given them money in the past?
Yes, last year they was awarded a $2,500 grant. This year they're requesting $5,000.
Any comments on that? Yeah. All right, old business. Ordinances, second and final reading, public hearing. That's 8th on your agenda, if you've got the newer agenda. An ordinance to amend the city code of ordinances, Title 1, Administration, Officers and Personnel, Chapter 14, Purchasing Department, Purchasing Procedures, and to repeal any and all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. That was pages 28 through 64 in our packet. And I think that's dealing with the amount before we go out to bid from 15,000, and we were looking at moving it to 50,000. Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct, Lori? Okay. Okay, this is our purchasing agent back here, Ms. Sadler. And Okay. So we're not voting on that tonight, but that will be next week, correct?
Yes, sir, it will be, and we was hoping to get direction from the council. It was tabled last month.
Right.
And Lori did a good job preparing a, for lack of a better term, cheat sheet.
Yeah.
But this just gives the council various opportunities to view how, in a really short format, how this could be adjusted. And we was hoping to have discussion tonight to get direction from.
Any discussions on that? Any questions about it? I think we discussed it a little bit. Didn't we? Yeah. Okay. Anyone?
Even though you're raising the amounts, you still have the requirements for her grid to get either 2 quotes, 3 quotes, or if it meets the bid threshold of 50,000, then you gotta get 4
Yes, sir.
bids. So you're going to eliminate a lot of the formal bidding process that takes a lot of management time, I guess. Isn't that what-
And it delays projects, because usually when you go to bid, especially on things 50,000 and less, you're talking 6 to 8 weeks working through that process. Whereas this would allow for still the same checks and balances, but you can get the quotes on the different amounts. But it would definitely save a lot of time. And again, everything must be approved by the city council through the budget.
When that's at budget time, that is not at the particular time that the emergency arises where those monies need to be spent on the spur of the moment, which means it gives the opportunity for Department C to purchase a piece of equipment from Buddy X over here in town, or Buddy X over here, and that type of thing. There are problems that can be seen from this when it comes to the Buddy type purchasing from the Buddy group, the Buddy that's does this or sells that type of thing too. It doesn't really offer the opportunity of everyone getting the opportunity to bid on a project, to sell that piece of equipment or what have you to the city of Shelbyville. And that's just, it could be very minute and small, but it is what it is.
Good point. Councilor Buick.
And we're certainly,
I don't know if it was or not, but things happen.
you see the various options. I mean, we can just leave it the same, or there's 3 other categories. But as far as discussing maybe doing a buddy deal, all of our department heads are phenomenal. And we've got a watchdog looking over our shoulders that always ensures that we get the best deal available for the city. It don't matter if it's my best friend or my worst enemy. We're always looking for the best deal for the city.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to make sure I know what your concern is. Your concern is primarily the director's discretion going from $1,500 to $5,000. Is that correct?
No, it's 15,000 to 50,000.
Well-
Correct.
Well, you're talking about being able to select, when you say buddy, I assume you're saying that a director could go out and just choose to buy a certain piece of equipment. The director himself or herself has the ability to decide who they buy a piece of equipment from. Is that what you're saying?
That is
Your concern. Okay, so that only is 5,000, because anything over 5,000 or 4,000 or 3, depending on where you are, you get quotes from. So is that, you're primarily concerned with if as it's written and as it has been passed, it goes up to 50, it goes up to 5,000. So there's no and Lori, correct me if I'm misstating this, there's no quotes given for 5,000 and less for a director's decision, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's what your primary concern is. You don't want that to get raised?
I was thinking, oh, Lori,
Is that it?
help me on this.
No.
What
I'm
we
not,
talking,
I'm not
50?
making a decision tonight. That's-
Lori, if you don't mind.
I'm just trying to make certain that I understand what you just stated, what your concern is.
One of the concerns is
Uh-huh.
for the director would actually be taking the bids themselves. So the bid committee, this is not having to do anything with the bid committee.
Only,
It's the director taking those bids amongst him or herself. Is that correct?
you're talking about the 2 quotes and the 3 quote
Yes,
ranges.
exactly.
None of that gets decided without coming through my office.
Okay.
But it goes before the bid committee. If
Bid
it
committee,
goes-
if we go with option 1, the one in blue,
Right.
TCA allows for our type of city, $50,000 would be what the bid committee looks at, 50,000 and above. And we're talking about most of our vehicles,
Right.
most tractors. I mean, $50,000 doesn't buy a lot of equipment anymore. It doesn't buy any of us, I don't think. Or police
Or
cars.
fire.
What are police cars now? We're
So that
over
is called-
we're over 50,000 on all of that.
That-
Which most of that stuff we use state contracts for anyway, but it comes to you.
But that is the formal bid process. So right now it's 25,000.
No, 15. Right now it's 15.
Right now it's 15.
Excuse me,
Yes.
you're right, it's 15,000. And it would go, as passed already on first reading, it's written as 50,000. So the formal bid process, you want to tell them exactly what you have to do for the formal bid process?
And I don't think we passed it, we deferred it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Or
It's
we
been
did not
passed
pass
on
it, we
first
deferred it,
reading.
yeah.
It's been passed on first reading, on second reading, you deferred it to this time.
Okay.
Formal bid process is, number 1, we have to come up with specifications. And that involves the department director, myself, usually. A lot of times more staff than even just the director. It might involve several members of their staff to come up with specifications. Then we let it out for bid, and my rule of thumb is I don't want anything out there less than 2 weeks. So 2 weeks out, I try to have them all out there for 3 or 4.
And you publish that in
It is
newspapers?
published in the newspaper, it's put on our website, it's put on Denver Registry, which is a Tennessee-based company that links it to our website free of charge. If it's a major, I want to say more like a grant type project with TDOT, TDEC, whatever, they require newspapers of large circulation sometimes, or publication on TDOT's website. That gets pricey when you do have to go to a national newspaper. That they have pretty much lifted most of that. It's putting it on TDOT's website for the most part. All time consuming, but we do it and it gets done. Then we receive the bids and we hope and pray for bids. And I also send out to known vendors. I usually try to send out, and this is something other cities don't do. They put it on their websites and put it in the newspaper and they just hope for good results. I usually ask the directors to give me at least 3 vendors that I can contact personally and say, we've got this bid, please go to our website to find it. We try hard, and as bid committee members know, we don't always get. I can mail out to 10 or 12 companies, and sometimes we get 3 responses, maybe 1 response, 2 responses. But anyway, that's our hope. So anyway, then from that process, we have to wait for study session and business meeting. And then I can finally order on the Friday after, the second Friday of the month, usually. I have an example that's gonna come to you in a little while. We had a boiler go out at the rec center. Now, this boiler is over 50,000. Just to, but most of our boilers have been under 50,000. So had we had a higher range than 15,000, and this boiler came in at 25 or 30, and we had a higher range, Mike's been waiting 3 or 4 weeks now. We have cold pool water inside, or cooler than what they like, because we're having to put it into emergency status, and we're going to talk to you about it later in the meeting. But something like a boiler or an HVAC unit at the Senior Citizen Center, which is also on the agenda later tonight, which is $18,000 to $20,000 range, I could already be working on those with quotes, with 3 reputable local quotes. But I can't, because, and then to do it, we have to put it in an emergency status, which the Senior Citizen Center is. But you see where the flow of some things that are needed, but the price they are, I'm not asking for y'all to do anything that you're not comfortable with. I mean, we're getting by with the current policy rates. We haven't raised the limits in over 5 years. It was April of 2019, and you all know what inflation has been the past 5 years. $1 doesn't buy what it used to buy. $1,500 doesn't buy what it used to buy. And I know I asked a couple of the directors to give me examples, and our police chief gave me an example of car repairs. Most dealer parts are over $1,500. And he also gave the example of an AC unit. But, it's up to you all. We want you to be comfortable with our policy, and I will implement whatever you vote in. But I will say that the directors could use a little more leeway than $1,500.
Just make sure by reading this, I think this clarifies, nobody's gonna spend over $5,000 without it going through you.
Correct. And even the $5,000 things all come through me right after the fact, and we're gonna catch it if somebody's doing something weird.
Well, that weirdness can happen.
Sure
That
it
weirdness
can,
happened
and
a
that's
couple
what I'm
years
looking
ago
for.
That we haven't solved yet with fiber optic cable, which was something that we didn't even know about. And that certainly wasn't authorized. So weirdness can happen.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is. We haven't solved that one yet.
Any other comments or questions for Lori? Thank you, Lori, for bringing us up to speed, and good job on that layout. Good job.
So right now, we consider that this right.
So we vote on it next week.
I think staff will know there's a little bit said already. I need to put council wants to go for that.
I'll really wait till next week when we take the vote.
We're not voting.
If that's acceptable.
Well, of course,
Yeah, sure.
But
Yeah.
here's where we discuss hash everything, and we know
Oh.
what direction, so bring it back. But we do have it on first reading yet. Yeah.
Any other comment? Okay, all right, let's go to the next item there. And that would be, okay, number 9. An ordinance to amend the city code of ordinances, Title 10, offenses, miscellaneous, Chapter 2, enumerated, Section 213, loitering, to repeal any and all ordinance in conflict herewith and providing for an effective date. Okay, discussion on that. We've had some comments along that line tonight. Appreciate those. That's pages 65 and 66 in our pack. Okay, no comments on on our study session tonight. It'll probably be on our agenda next week, right? Okay. Number 10, an ordinance to amend the adopted budget ordinance as amended of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, various funds for the fiscal year 2023-2024, the period ending on June 30, 2024. Pages 67 and 68 in our handout. Kate, would you bring us up to speed on that? Or just get started?
Yeah.
Let me.
My speed's a little slow, but, Lisa and I were talking about this afternoon, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but, you know, we need 2 readings on this, and we're gonna we just approved tonight the first reading at the special call meeting
Right.
For final budget.
for final budget
Right.
amendments. So we were gonna just kind of let this one drop off and then do the second reading on the final budget amendments on June 25th. By that time, I should know how much you might be wanting to add to legal. I can have the boiler amount. I can add Hawkins and Price and so forth. So
We kind of had this one on here just as a placeholder. She didn't have any amendments up until the present. We expect to have some after next week's meeting.
right.
But up until present, we didn't have any. But we usually run a final budget amendment ordinance alongside the new budget ordinance. So we just decided to do that, and if y'all would just vote to table this one indefinitely next week. This one will go away, doesn't have any amendments attached to it anyway, it was just a placeholder. And then all amendments will be put into the other ordinance that'll come back to you at the end of the month.
Right. What she said.
There you go.
Thank you both ladies. Any comments, any questions for Kay? All right. If not, we'll move on. All right. An ordinance of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee to approve the rezoning of 3.38 acres owned by Cooper Steel Fabricators Incorporated, located on the north side of Eagle Boulevard, west of Eaton Drive, and shown on Exhibit A, the final plat, below from, I guess it's showing us, there's a picture there. There it is. All right, Tom, if you want to come forward, please. Sure. Let me read the rest of it. Final plat below from residential R2, low to medium density residential district, to industrial 2. Is it industrial 2 is what we're looking at? I thought we were looking at industrial 1 on that.
It is I2.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
I2, and repealing any ordinance or portion of ordinance in conflict therewith. That's pages 69 through 80. Tom,
All right.
nice to have you here tonight.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So this is the second and last reading for this ordinance, as well as the public hearing. As you can see from the slide, this is 3.38 acres, and Cooper Steel Fabricators is the applicant. They are looking to go from an R2 to an I2. The property was recently combined, I want to say it was in April, to make one complete property. It meets all the bulk standards as well as our future land use map, which is the innovation character area. And if you look at the left-hand side of the zoning map, you can see that it is surrounded by I2. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on April 25th.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Tom tonight on that piece of property? I'm familiar with being on the Planning Commission also. Anyone have a question? Okay. All right, thank you, Tom. Our new business ordinances, first reading. An ordinance of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee to approve the rezoning of 2.5 acres owned by Robert and Dana Collins, located on the east side of South Cannon Boulevard and referred to as tax map 0891, Group F, parcel 1.00 from residential R1, low density residential district to commercial, C2, general commercial, and repealing any ordinance or portion of ordinance in conflict therewith.
So in this ordinance, this is the first reading of 2.5 acres. Chad and Dana Collins are requesting a zoning ordinance change from R1 low density to C2 general commercial. And if you look on the right-hand side on the zoning map, it is abutting commercial. And within our, yes, on the right-hand side, in our future land use map and comprehensive plan, it is the 231 South Cannon Boulevard character area. And I wanted to just emphasize the red circle box that one of the, it's not a condition of the zoning, but one of the criteria that is reviewed is that the service may be provided for, that they have existing or redeveloped service. And we received one letter of opposition to this. This property has a 4-inch sewer, which limits the capacity for a lot of the businesses for C2. So Shelbyville Power requested a deed restriction stating that there is a 4-inch sewer line there. And within Shelbyville, or within our sewer ordinance, the requirement is 6-inch. That can be addressed when the site is developed to a commercial. So Shelbyville Power agreed to this deed restriction. They actually came up with the language. It was recorded as a restricted covenant.
Okay.
And on May 23rd, the Planning Commission provided a favorable recommendation to the City Council.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for Tom on that? Everybody know where that piece of property is? Tom, what commercial property is it back up to? Do you know right off the top of your head?
It backs up to, actually, it's on the river. So 721 South Cannon Boulevard.
Okay. Any questions for Tom? All right, Tom, if you just stay, I think, yeah, we're finished with you.
Okay, thank you. I was about to say,
Now we're ready for the stage round.
Thank you, Tom. Resolutions, I don't have anything there. Business items, I don't have anything there. And we're gonna ask Ms. Sadler to come back up. Purchasing and bid items, we have an emergency purchase. And, I believe she already referred to this a minute ago, the boiler at the rec center.
Yes, sir. We have a boiler at the rec center that has died. It is the boiler that heats the building and it heats the indoor pool. And as I said in the staff summary, we're fortunate right now that it's not wintertime. And we were technically putting this in emergency status, but when we saw the price of the range we got, we thought we might bring it to you all. The only complaint we're having currently is the temperature of the pool. This boiler was a 10 to 11-year-old boiler. It was part of the Amoresco energy saving project. 4 quotes range from $71,244 to $132,056.36. And we did take the time to contact a Tennessee statewide contract vendor, which you all know I use state contracts when I can, but it was one of the 2 higher bids. So that's where we're at. And the rec center staff is ready to get this replaced because we have unhappy swimmers.
Okay. Any questions for Lori on that? Or for the park director, Mr. Alsop, and Trevor, his assistant.
We don't have anything to Trevor.
Scott, do you have
This is capital fund. Yes. Where you prefer it to come from, and of course, this would be budget amendment.
We've got plenty of money there. I would probably do an amendment just to get it in the right line item, but we've got money fund balance there.
Not budgeted.
With the information now available, what we would like to do is, in accordance to our policy, go ahead and declare this an emergency and more or less order the repair tomorrow in anticipation of the mayor and city council approving the emergency purchase, because I believe our Parks and Recreation Director and assistant and all others, there's been a lot of fussing going on out there. But I didn't feel comfortable doing a 72,000 emergency purchase without the city council knowing about it.
But how do you
How do
know,
you folks feel about
how
it?
do you know who you're going with? Is it the 71?